Are you tired of sugarcoating how you feel about infertility? The Infertility And Me podcast offers raw and candid discussions about all things infertility and IVF. Join me, Monique, your host, as we get real about the emotional, physical, and mental effects of infertility and what it does to its victims. Hashtag infertility sucks. Please be advised, adult content and language. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Infertility and Me. I am your host, Monique, and today I have infertility warrior Amanda joining me. Amanda, tell us about your diagnosis.
And conceive in January of 2018. We actually spent about a year testing, taking clomid, kind of hoping to conceive naturally or with some sort of assistance. And it wasn't until February of 2019 we received a definitive diagnosis of infertility.
Wow. Okay. So it hasn't been too long, but long enough where you can feel the effects of the journey and what it's like. So
Absolutely.
Wow. How long had you guys been married before you started?
We actually we had our consultation the month before we got married.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had the same gynecologist since I was a teenager, and we had the full physicals. We're both given the green light that we were healthy, and I stopped taking my birth control and started trying, and it did not go as planned.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine how that must have felt, when things didn't go as planned. So let's see, what would you say is first, how did you feel when you got your diagnosis? That's what I wanted to say. How did you feel when you first got your diagnosis?
I think we received the definitive diagnosis from the HSG, the dye test.
Okay.
Where they tested my uterus and my tubes. And we had prepared ourselves, I think, for just assuming that maybe something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It could be fixed. And I think when the doctor told us that we had a 1% chance of conceiving, and that IVF and tubal removal was our only option, to me it was devastating. I think I kind of crawled into a hole for probably about 4 months, didn't pursue any more information. It was hard to feel like I could conquer that.
Wow. So you kind of like then almost shut down from anything related to it, just so you could have time to process it. That would be correct, right?
Yeah.
And I can definitely relate to that, because I did the same thing when during our journey and finding out I had hypothyroid disease. I just kind of shut down for a little while, and then when I was ready, I hopped back on board and was ready to go. So after the 4 months was up and you let yourself process it, and you came to terms with it emotionally, what was the single most thing that got you motivated and ready to go?
I think that the whole time from the day that I received my diagnosis was my husband. I am a pessimist. He is a shining optimist at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And he, from the very beginning, said, well, there are other options. Let's find out what they are. And he just kept pushing, why are we waiting? We need to schedule another doctor's appointment.
Mm.
And that was the push.
Yeah, the fire underneath underneath of your bum to get you moving, right? And that's great that he was so supportive, and he was handling it with such strength, it sounds like, and a lot of men do, and they feel like they have to be the strongest one. And I think that is just so funny, because a lot of other people, they say that their husbands are like kind of like off-puttish a little bit. They don't want to move forward right away. It takes them a little bit longer to process everything. I can attest for my husband doing that. He was like, no, I think we should try a little bit longer on our own. It took him a little while. And then when I finally explained to him, look, it might be me, don't be scared. It might be me. It may not even be you. And it was, so that's really awesome. And yeah, that's awesome. And how did, would you say that it impacted you guys' relationship as a married couple in a positive or negative way? And how?
We, this year especially, kind of made the ultimate leap. We sold our dream house. We
Wow.
quit our jobs and moved back to his hometown so that we could afford and be able to focus on this. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we have had a lot of hard times, and it's only made us love each other more. You kind of have to buckle down and adapt and grow, and it's hard to say we are going to move forward at whatever cost, and that's what we've done. And it wasn't easy, but when you have that bond and that support with someone, it makes even the most difficult moments easy, because this is just what you're supposed to be doing.
Wow. You guys have really been on a journey. Wow, you had to sell your dream house and everything. And a lot of people, I've done it. We did it, to afford it, because we live in Maryland. And at the time we had it done, they were talking about giving coverage, and they had some coverages, but they didn't have much. And then we didn't have insurance for ourselves because we are self-employed. So we didn't have any, we had to go out of pocket as well, like you guys, to pay for treatment. And, we sacrifice, and, and sacrifice is the name of the game. And I think that you sacrifice a lot of things during the infertility journey, especially relationships outside of your marriage too, because you feel like a little isolated and alone. So can you tell me a little bit about how it has affected your friendships with your girlfriends and stuff?
I think that I am the only person that I know that is struggling with infertility. It's hard to relate to people who I think you develop inevitably, even when you say you're not going to, you develop this bitterness to
Yeah.
anyone that's getting pregnant. And of course, all of my bestest friends have become pregnant or
Yeah.
are trying, and it's hard. But I think overcoming my own, what I felt like shame, I
Mm-hmm.
guess,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming that allowed me to reconnect with my friends, realizing that it's okay to be angry. It's okay um, to speak out and say, I really don't want to talk about your baby right now.
Yeah.
I need my space and my time, and making myself feel less like an outsider. I think it was myself that pulled myself away, and feeling stronger about my own journey is what is currently helping me reconnect with other people again.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely understand that. And I like that point that you made about it being okay to be angry, um, with what has transpired for your life, and as far as the journey that you have to take to parenthood, and it being more difficult than the average couple, or other couples, I should say. Um, so I can only imagine what you went through watching your friends becoming pregnant. And, so how did you deal with baby showers? Did you not go at all?
We always went. A lot of the family baby showers that we have here, um, the husbands and wives go, and I think that made it easier for me having my husband there, because he, like I said, is just strong and positive. And I just had to keep reminding myself that even though this may not happen in a timely manner, it may not happen the way that I want or in the traditional way, but we will be parents eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even though it stings now, I, one day I'll be celebrating this way. And
Yeah.
I may have a friend or a family member experiencing the same, and I just want to mingle the things back together. I don't want, it's so easy for an infertile person to feel like they're on the outside, and it shouldn't be
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is isolating. I didn't tell anyone for a couple years as far as friends are concerned. My mom, my dad knew, and I told my aunt because she had been through it and they just decided not to move forward with treatment and they didn't have any kids. So, but she has a lot of godchildren and stuff and nieces and nephews. So they made up for it in another way, which is difficult to come to terms with. But it's, this journey is a process, just like anything else that we go through in life. And so what would you say has been one of your greatest lessons this far in your journey?
I think in an overall, just being able to be okay with the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
I am a very organized person. I'm meticulous, and infertility is the opposite.
Yeah.
There is no planning, there is no rhyme or reason, and everything happens almost on a day to day. And I think that has forced me to become a more calm person,
Mm-hmm.
to just be okay with this is our life right now, and it may be difficult to accept that things aren't going to go our way. Maybe they will,
Yeah.
but just knowing that at the end, we are okay. There's
Yeah.
always more options.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. That's and you know what? It's so funny because when you're going through it, you don't want to think about having to choose a different path as far as maybe surrogacy, depending on someone's diagnosis or adoption and stuff. But when you really want something and it's in your heart to do it, it's amazing what you will go through to get there. And I think that's one of the other lessons in infertility too. Is it opens us up and it opens our eyes to a much broader view of things. And yeah, that's kind of deep. That's pretty powerful there. So if you were standing face to face with infertility, what would you say to infertility?
I think that I would just, I would say that it's not going to win. And that's the most powerful statement that I keep reminding myself, is that this will not win.
Yeah.
No matter what we have to do or how we have to grow to adapt to this, it won't win. And even though you tried to take our spontaneity, you changed our lives, you took all of our money, you won't win, because when you're strong and you love each other and you are willing to move through these things, you're never going to lose,
Yeah.
especially not to something like this that is, it just affects who it affects, and there's no way around it,
Yeah.
just through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank you for sharing that. That is that's a powerful statement. And wow. Wow. And is there anything else that you would like to add for someone going through the journey and has just begun?
I think that what I wish I had known, and when we started our journey, I didn't know anyone. I read a lot of things, but there was no person that I had ever met experiencing this. And I think what I would tell them is to ask the questions. Ask all the questions, and if the doctors don't know, then find different doctors. We spent a year of our lives and money and time working towards something that we shouldn't have been. Inevitably, none of it worked. We've been through different reproductive doctors who we didn't like, who gave us very poor prognosis, and we didn't like it, so we moved on. And I think for me especially, it would have been very easy to stop at each one of those roadblocks and say, well, it's just not in the cards. We can't go forward. And thankfully, my husband kept saying, well, I don't think they're right. And I'm scheduled for tubal surgery tomorrow, and we have a new hope.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Just ask the questions, do the research, almost never take anyone's first answer as the correct one,
Yep. Yep.
because our lives would be different had we stopped the million other times that someone told us to.
Yeah. But you know what? You learn so much. So I don't think it's in vain. You know, we feel like certain things are in vain, but I don't think it's in vain because you learned a lot, during that process. And another good point that you made was, always advocating for yourself and being knowledgeable about your condition so that you are well informed before you go. And so, Amy, I appreciate you coming on today. I don't want to hold you any longer. Um, I know you're very, very busy and you have your surgery to prepare for and everything. So I got my fingers crossed for you that everything goes okay and that you come out much stronger and feeling much better moving forward. And I'm going to ask if you could come back with an update in the future, if you like, if you have time. I appreciate that as well. And I thank you again for coming on and sharing with us your journey and giving encouragement to those who are just, may just be starting out and such. And so I wanted to tell our listeners about your IG. Would you mind me sharing your IG information?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have our a GoFundMe page that's linked to um, our Insta, I think.
Yes, I think it is on there. I saw it
Yeah,
on there last
perfect.
week. Yep, I think I do remember seeing on there. And tell our listeners, please, if you could, your IG handle so they can follow you and connect with you on your journey.
Yeah, it's Infertility Journey to Baby C.
Alrighty. And you can always follow Infertility and Me to connect as well at Infertility and Me _ Facebook, Infertility and Me in the number 2. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.